Privileged to speak twice. I think he should get to speak.
I'm sorry, I should have cut you off. I apologize for that. Does anyone else want to speak on the subject? If you'd like to speak on the subject and you haven't spoken already, please come to the microphone. Otherwise, any other comments from council? Chuck.
First thing I'd like to say is I heard several comments about, needing more detectives and homicides. I don't think there's anybody here on this council or in the audience that wouldn't like to see more detectives and try to solve all the homicides. Our situation is always the budget, and we somewhat differ. Councilman Horn has his opinions. We have our opinions. We're doing the best we can with the budget we have. With that being said, I would just want to thank I'll be voting for this. I would just want to thank the foundation. I want to thank Sheriff Buffett for all he's done for our community. I know the audience feels differently, but he's done a lot of great things for this city. I've met the guy personally after the cannabis vote, not before. And very good guy. Only wants to do what's best for this city. And I think the way he's being treated here tonight is very unfair. With that being said, if City Manager Wrighton, if you want to ask him if he would fund 2 of these officers, he's got my approval on that.
I'll just say that the chief and I have an ongoing dialogue with the foundation, and he tries to be as responsive to the needs of the department that go above and beyond even some of his initially stated goals to support law enforcement. We'll continue that dialogue.
Sir, did you wish to address council?
Yes.
Would you please come down to the podium so we can have you on the microphone?
Yeah, okay.
We just need your name, no address.
Okay, Troy Kendricks. I just had a quick question. So I read studies about correlations between poor education and crime and safety of cities. I read studies about income inequality and how that correlates with high crime rates. Did you guys have studies that showed correlations between cannabis use and safety of different cities? I just didn't know if y'all had studies to back that, or...
Really, all we're looking at is grant money to fund an officer to be on making our streets safer. So we have not received, if you'd like to send us some, we'd be happy to review it.
Right, so we don't even got studies, but we do have plenty of studies where we could, have some grant money to target other areas like education and income inequality, try to address different areas that for certain we have studies that show that lead to safer cities. You know what I mean?
And we all are always looking for grant dollars, and we do actively pursue both state and federal grant monies for housing and for crime and for a lot of things.
Okay, so
There's just only so much money that goes around, and we fight for our fair share too.
understood. I don't understand how y'all or how anyone thinks, less cannabis use is safer city. Can you tell me how that works?
Well, this is really just about impaired drivers and trying to keep impaired drivers, whether they're DUI or whatever, off the streets.
Okay.
That's what this is about.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Horn?
I once again wanted to say that, in my view, having an additional sworn police officer that spends 100% of their time on DUI enforcement is likely to improve public safety, and so from that perspective, I'm supportive of that grant. However, I will also say that I understand the concerns that the citizens have raised today, because the city's published rationale unnecessarily singled out cannabis users. It unnecessarily reinforced racial differences in cannabis arrests, and it minimized the already serious problem with DUIs, particularly from alcohol, that the city is facing. And thus, a generous donation, in my view, by a private foundation is not going to be as well received as it could have been. And that does bring up a question for City Manager Wrighton, and that is the Illinois General Assembly is working on a program called the Restore, Reinvest, and Renew program. And this program derives 25% of the cannabis tax revenue to fund strategies on violence prevention, reentry, and health services to areas across the state. that Decatur definitely fits within this category. So the question is, we may vote to accept this grant. Where is the city in accepting funding through programs such as this R3 program?
I would say in general that we pursue any grant that we can find that we're eligible for, and I'm not certain because I don't know the legislative history behind this, Councilman Horn. But although the city isn't going to be getting money from the sale of retail cannabis at a dispensary, we're still eligible for a portion of the funding that is made available by the state for these programs that you're talking about. This may be one of those grant programs. So, I mean, our staff's general approach is anything we can pursue funding for that we're eligible for, we will certainly do it.
And the reason I bring this up, again, is that a large proportion of the city of Decatur has been considered by the state of Illinois as disproportionately impacted by previous cannabis arrests and incarcerations. And so we may be having a DUI enforcement officer, and that brings up the very concerns that in many ways this legislation was attempting to fix. And so I think it is important that the city also pursue other sources of funding that really begins to address what the state legislature was trying to fix.
Fair enough. Call the question.
Councilwoman Gregory?
Aye.
Councilman Horn?
Aye.
Councilman Kuehl?
Aye.
Councilman McDaniel?
Aye.
Councilman Walker?
Nay.
Councilman Faber?
Aye.
Mayor Martwolf?
Aye.
6 ayes, 1 nay.